James Blackwell's fist hit the desk harder than he meant to. The laptop screen blurred in front of him. Another deal gone wrong. Another night alone in this massive house that felt more like a museum than a home. 11:15 p.m. His staff had left hours ago. He pushed back from his desk and walked out of his office. Maybe moving through the empty rooms would clear his head. Maybe not. At this point, he'd try anything to stop thinking about the mess his life had become. That's when he heard it. A voice. Singing. James froze mid-step. The sound came from down the hall, near the library. He'd never heard anything like it. The voice carried pain and beauty in equal measure, cutting through the silence of his empty mansion. He moved toward it quietly, his heart pounding harder than it should. Through the cracked library door, he saw her. Cynthia, his housekeeper. She sat on the floor, surrounded by cleaning supplies. Eyes closed, tears running down her face. The song poured out of her in a language he didn't recognize, but he felt every word in his chest. This wasn't casual singing. This was someone bleeding their soul into the air when they thought no one was listening. Her voice rose and fell with professional precision, but there was something raw underneath the technique, something real. James stood in the hallway, barely breathing. He was afraid that any sound, any movement, would break whatever spell had filled this moment. When the last note faded, Cynthia wiped her face with the back of her hand and stood up. She picked up her cleaning cloth and went back to dusting shelves like nothing had happened. He walked away before she could see him. But that night, sleep wouldn't come. He kept hearing those notes, feeling that emotion radiating through the walls of his too big, too empty house. The next morning, James called his estate manager. "Tell me about Cynthia Okeke. Your night housekeeper? Good employee. Quiet. Never late. Why? Background, family, anything." His manager shrugged. "She sends most of her money overseas. Nigeria, I think. Keeps to herself, otherwise." That night, James stayed late on purpose. Around 11, he heard it again. Different song, same heartbreak wrapped in perfect pitch. This time, he didn't hide in the hallway. He knocked. The singing cut off like someone had hit stop on a recording. Cynthia jumped to her feet, eyes wide. "Mr. Blackwell, I'm so sorry. I thought everyone was gone. It won't happen again. Please don't fire me. Stop." James held up both hands. "You're not in trouble." She clutched her cleaning cloth, her whole body tensed like she was ready to run. "I shouldn't have been singing. I should have been working." "You were on break, weren't you?" A small nod. "Then do whatever you want on your break." He stepped into the library, but kept his distance. "That voice, you trained somewhere." Cynthia looked at the floor. "Long time ago." "How long?" She didn't answer right away. James could see her wrestling with something, deciding whether to trust him with the truth. Finally, her shoulders dropped. New York Conservatory of Music. Full scholarship. 7 years ago. James blinked. The conservatory was one of the top music schools in the country. "What happened? Why aren't you performing?" "Life happened." Her voice had an edge now. "Not everyone gets to chase dreams forever. I'm not attacking you. I'm asking." Cynthia met his eyes. Something shifted in her expression, like a door opening just a crack. "My parents died. Car accident. 6 years ago in Lagos. I have 3 younger siblings back home. Someone had to feed them. Someone had to pay school fees, rent, everything. Music doesn't pay fast enough when kids are hungry." The words hit James in the chest. "So you gave it up?" "I did what I had to do." She straightened her spine. "Waitressing, cleaning, retail, whatever paid. I send 80% home. My youngest sister just started university. I'm proud of that." "You should be proud. But Cynthia, that voice, you can't just bury something like that." Her face cracked, just for a second. "I miss it every single day." But missing something doesn't bring it back. She picked up her bucket of supplies. "Do you need anything else, Mr. Blackwell? I should finish." "Wait." She stopped. "Sing for me. Not now, but sometimes. When you're on break, don't hide it anymore." Cynthia stared at him like he'd started speaking another language. "Why would you want that?" "Because everything in my life is fake. Business deals, networking dinners, people who smile while calculating what they can get from me. Your voice is the first real thing I've heard in years. I could use a little reality." She studied his face, searching for the trap. "Okay, sometimes. I'll sing sometimes. Thank you." That night, after she left, James sat alone in the library. For the first time in months, the mansion didn't feel quite so empty. She didn't sing the next night. James waited in his office, door open, listening. Nothing. Just the sound of vacuum cleaners and running water, echoing through empty halls. He told himself it was fine. She didn't owe him anything. But the silence felt heavier than before. 2 weeks passed like that. Cynthia worked her shifts, avoided the library when he was nearby, and kept her headphones in. Professional, distant, safe. Then one Thursday night, James heard it again. He didn't rush this time. He waited, let the song finish, then walked to the library door. Cynthia was standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. "That was beautiful," he said quietly. She turned. "I thought you'd be asleep by now." "Couldn't sleep." "Me neither." She sat down on the floor, her usual spot. "That song was my mother's favorite. She used to sing it while cooking. It's about a bird that flies far from home but never forgets where it came from." James leaned against the fard doorframe. "Do you ever think about going back to Nigeria?" "Every single day. But my siblings need me here. My brother's in secondary school. My middle sister is studying nursing. My youngest just started university." She pulled her knees to her chest. "Once they're settled, maybe then I can go home. What about you? Where's home for you?" "I grew up in Connecticut. Normal family, middle class. My dad was an accountant, and my mom taught 3rd grade. And now you live in a mansion." "Yeah. Made my first million at 28. Bought my parents a house in the suburbs. My father died 2 years later. My mother became distant." Cynthia's expression softened. "I'm sorry. I threw myself into work after that. Built the company bigger. Bought this place. Filled it with expensive art and furniture from catalogs." He looked around the library. "But it never felt like home. It's just a building where I sleep." "What changed?" He met her eyes. "I heard someone singing." The air between them shifted. Cynthia looked away first, standing up quickly. "I should get back to work." But she didn't move toward the door. Neither did he. Over the next month, their conversations became routine. James would finish work around 11. Cynthia would take her break. They'd end up in the library, talking about everything and nothing. One night, she told him about Lagos. The markets. The music everywhere. Her mother's funeral, where hundreds of people came to sing. He told her about his ex-fiancée who left because she said he loved his company more than her. About how she was probably right. "You work 3 jobs, James said one night. "How are you still standing?" "The mansion from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Cafe from 7 to 2. Retail on weekends." She said it matter-of-factly, like it was normal. "I sleep about 4 hours, sometimes less. That's not sustainable. It's what my family needs. My sister sent me her exam results last week. Top of Creason, her nursing class. My brother won a regional science competition, and my baby sister calls me every day crying because she's so happy to be at university studying computer science." Cynthia smiled. "That's why I do it. They're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have them. They're my reason for everything." She paused. "But sometimes, late at night when I'm singing, I let myself imagine something different. A stage somewhere. Lights. An audience. Actually doing what I trained for. Then morning comes, and I remember reality. James wanted to tell her. It didn't have to be just imagination. That he could help. But something stopped him. Maybe the way her walls went up whenever he got too close to offering anything that looked like charity. So he just listened. And waited for her to sing. His assistant noticed the change in him. You seem different lately. Less stressed. James shrugged. Just sleeping better. But it wasn't sleep. It was her. Cynthia's laugh. When he made terrible jokes. The way her whole face lit up when she talked about her siblings. Her strength. Her sacrifice. The fact that she worked herself to exhaustion without complaint, while he sat in his mansion wondering why success felt so empty. He had fallen for her. One night, about a month after their first real conversation, Cynthia sang something that made James's throat tight. When she finished, he was wiping his eyes. "Sorry," he said. "That just hit me. My mother wrote that one. She wanted to be a singer too. I guess it runs in the family." James took a breath. "I need to say something." Cynthia tensed. "What?" "Your voice is too good to stay hidden in this library. I know people in the music industry. Real people. Good people. Let me introduce you. Just let them hear you sing once." Her face closed immediately. "No. Just listen for a second." I said, "No, sir." She stood up fast. "I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I can't." "Why not?" "Because I have responsibilities. I can't chase dreams that might not go anywhere. It's not a dream if you have the talent. And you do. You don't understand." Her voice rose. "People like me don't get those chances. And even if I did, what would everyone think? That the billionaire's housekeeper slept her way into an opportunity? That I got a handout because it was convenient? Who cares what people think? I care." She was almost shouting now. "I've worked for everything I have. Every dollar. Every opportunity. Every piece of dignity. I won't let anyone say I didn't earn it." James stood too. "So you'll just clean houses forever? Work yourself to death? Never use your gift?" "If that's what it takes to take care of my family, yes." They stared at each other, both breathing hard. Cynthia grabbed her supplies. "I need to go." "Wait." But she was already out the door. James stood alone in the library, cursing himself. He'd pushed too hard, moved too fast. 3 nights passed. She didn't sing. She avoided the library completely, finishing her work in other parts of the mansion. When they passed in hallways, she wouldn't look at him. The house felt dead again. On the 4th night, James found a note on his desk. "Mr. Blackwell, I'll be in the library at 11, if you'd still like to listen. Cynthia." James was in the library by 10:30. He sat in one of the leather chairs, hands clasped, waiting. When Cynthia walked in at 11, she stopped in the doorway. For a second, neither of them spoke. "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwell," she said finally, "for snapping at you. Call me James, and don't be. I pushed when I shouldn't have." She walked in slowly and sat on the floor across from him. Not her usual spot by the window. Closer, this time. "I've been thinking about what you said," Cynthia said. "About my voice being hidden. About never using my gift." She picked at a thread on her uniform. "The truth is, your offer terrified me." "Why?" "Because part of me wanted to say yes so badly it physically hurt. And that scared me more than anything." She looked up at him. "I stopped letting myself want things years ago. Wanting things just leads to disappointment. So I focus on what needs to be done. Keep my head down. Stay safe." James slid off the chair and sat on the floor facing her. "That's not living, Cynthia. That's just surviving. Sometimes surviving is all you can afford." "Is it though?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then she started singing, soft and low, a melody he'd never heard before. Her voice cracked halfway through, and tears started running down her face, but she kept going. When the last note faded, she was sobbing. "That's what I want," she whispered. "I want to sing. I want people to hear me. I want my mother to be proud, wherever she is. But I'm so afraid of failing, of losing what little I have." James reached out slowly. She didn't pull away. He took her hand. "What if I promise you something?" he said. "One audition. People I trust. No strings. No expectations. If nothing happens, we never talk about it again. If something does happen, you decide. Everything on your terms. I'm just opening a door. You choose whether to walk through it." "Why do you care this much?" "Because I've spent 15 years building an empire. I have more money than I can spend in 3 lifetimes. I own buildings and companies and stocks, and none of it means anything." He squeezed her hand. "But your voice? That means something. Watching you bury it feels like watching someone burn a masterpiece because they're afraid someone might not like it." Cynthia looked at their joined hands. "One audition? One audition. Your choice. Your timeline." She took a shaky breath. "Give me 2 months. I need to save more first, in case this affects my job somehow." "Okay." She smiled through her tears. "Okay." Those 2 months changed everything. James found himself racing home from meetings, checking his watch during conference calls, making excuses to leave dinners early, all so he could be in that library when Cynthia took her break. They talked about everything. About her first solo at 12 when her voice cracked, and everyone laughed except her mother, who just smiled and told her to keep going. He told her about his first failed startup. "What does your company even do?" Cynthia asked one night. "I know it's tech something, but what exactly?" "Healthcare software. It's just business to me. Spreadsheets and board meetings." He shrugged. "It doesn't feel meaningful like what you do." "James, I scrub toilets." "No, you take care of people. You send your siblings to school. You make this cold house feel less empty. That's meaningful." She smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "When I started listening to someone smarter than me sing." The night before the audition, Cynthia was a mess. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't hold the duster. James found her in the Martyr. Handstand. Library. Sitting on the floor with her head between her knees. "I can't do this. I'm calling it off." He sat down beside her. "You're just nervous." "No, you don't understand. I looked up these people. They've worked with Grammy winners, platinum artists, stadium tours. What am I supposed to say to them? Hi, I'm a housekeeper who sings while mopping floors? You say, I'm Cynthia, and you're about to hear something you'll never forget. Because that's the truth. What if I freeze? What if my voice cracks? What if they laugh at me? They won't laugh. And if you freeze or crack, so what? You'll still be right here, same as now. But if you don't go, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if. And that's worse than any audition." She leaned her head on his shoulder. He held very still, afraid to breathe. "Will you come with me?" she asked. "I'll be right there, the whole time." The audition was in a studio in Manhattan. Small, intimate. 3 people waited inside. Maria, a music producer James had worked with on charity events, a talent agent, a vocal coach. Cynthia's hand was ice cold in his as they walked in. "You must be Cynthia," Maria said warmly. "James mentioned you studied at the conservatory." "Impressive. That was a long time ago." Cynthia's voice was barely audible. "Well, let's hear what you've got. Sing anything you want. We're just here to listen." Cynthia walked to the center of the room. She closed her eyes. James saw her lips moving silently, maybe praying, maybe just gathering courage. Then she sang. She started with the Igbo folk song her mother used to sing. Her voice filled every corner of the studio, and James watched the three professionals' faces transform. Polite interest became shock, became something like awe. When she finished, nobody spoke. Then she sang a gospel hymn that raised goosebumps on James's arms. Finally, she sang something contemporary, showing range and control that made the vocal coach's mouth drop open. When the last note faded, Maria had tears running down her face. "Where did you train again?" the vocal coach asked. "Conservatory, but I haven't practiced seriously in 6 years." "It doesn't show. The technique is still there, but you've added something else." "It's in every note." The agent leaned forward. "Cynthia, I'm going to be direct. You have something rare. What if we start small? Let Maria produce a demo, 3 songs. We upload it, see how people respond. Then we talk about next steps. No pressure. I work 3 jobs," Cynthia said. "I can't just drop everything. We work around your schedule. Weekends, evenings, whatever you need. Because I don't have money for studio time." "No cost," Maria said. "Consider it an investment in someone I believe in." Cynthia looked at James. He nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's try." In the car afterward, Cynthia stared out the window in silence. James drove, glancing at her every few seconds, trying to read her face. "That really happened, right?" she said finally. "I didn't imagine it. It really happened. You were incredible. I feel like I'm dreaming. Like I'm going to wake up and still be scrubbing floors with nothing changed. It's real, Cynthia. This is real." She started crying then. Big, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. James pulled over and just held her while she wept into his shoulder. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I just never thought anyone would actually hear me. Really hear me. I hear you. And now everyone else will too." 3 months later, the demo was done. Maria uploaded it to streaming platforms with minimal promotion. Just Cynthia's name and 3 songs. Within 2 weeks, 1 song had 20,000 streams. Within a month, 500,000. Within 2 months, it had gone viral on social media. Record labels started calling, big ones. Cynthia sat in James's library, staring at her phone like it might explode. "This can't be real. It's very real. Labels are offering contracts, money, tours, everything." She looked up at him, panic in her eyes. "But James, what about my siblings? What about my jobs? I can't just abandon everything. What if you didn't have to choose?" "What do you mean?" "I have a proposal. And before you say no, just listen." He sat down across from her. "You need stability while you build a music career. What if you quit the cafe and retail jobs and work for me as a personal assistant? Day hours, better pay, health insurance. You'd still send money home, but you'd have evenings free for music." "James, that's charity. I can't. It's not charity. I actually need help. My life is chaotic. You'd be doing me a favor." She studied his face. "You're a terrible liar." "Maybe, but I'm serious about needing help. And the offer stands." 2 weeks later, Cynthia signed with an independent label that gave her creative control. She quit the other jobs, but accepted James's offer, though he suspected she knew it was partly an excuse to help her. Her first single was released 3 months after that. It climbed the charts steadily, reaching the top 20 within weeks. One evening, James found her in the library, staring out the window where she used to stand and sing alone. "I'm performing at the Apollo next month," she said without turning around. "The Apollo Theater. Can you believe that?" "I can absolutely believe it." She turned to face him. "I want you there. Front row." "I wouldn't miss it for anything." She walked toward him slowly. "James, I need to tell you something. These past months, you've given me more than an opportunity. You gave me back myself, the part I thought I'd lost forever. The part I thought I had to kill to survive. You did that yourself. I just listened. No, you cared. In a world where nobody saw me, you saw me. She took his hand. I think I'm falling in love with you. And I needed to say it out loud. Because life is too short and too unpredictable to not say things that matter. James felt his heart stop and restart. Cynthia, I've been in love with you since the first night I heard you sing. I just didn't want you to think the opportunity came with conditions. Your success is yours. You earned every bit of it. She laughed, tears in her eyes again. You're an idiot. Probably. She kissed him then. Soft and sweet and full of everything they'd both been afraid to say. 6 months later, Cynthia's debut album went platinum. She performed on late-night shows, won awards, became the artist she dreamed of being. Her siblings were happy for her. She bought her family a house in Lagos with a garden her mother would have loved. And every night, no matter how famous she became, or how many stages she stood on, she came back to that library. Their library. She'd sit on the floor in her usual spot, and James would sit across from her, and she'd sing. Not for the world. Not for the cameras, or the charts, or the applause. For the man who'd heard her when she was invisible. For the man who'd reminded her that buried dreams don't die. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel for more inspiring stories about second chances, hidden dreams, and the power of human connection. Hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to chase what matters. What dream have you buried that deserves to be heard? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you for listening.